The trouble with religious rules is that they are often motivated by fear and written by men who want to strengthen their power and control. Many of us who are deconstructing still struggle with the deeply ingrained, false, damaging teaching based in keeping the rules. So today we want to ask ourselves, do we have any religious rules which get in the way of us loving others, of loving ourselves? And we want to give you 10 religious rules that every person should disobey.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
Well, hello and welcome to the FreedHearts podcast. We're so glad you're with us today. My name is Robert Cottrell, and I'm here as always with
Susan Cottrell.
Hi.
Hi.
Have you had a good summer?
Have had a good summer,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, we're coming to, this is our last episode of the summer, and after this we're going to take some time off, give you some time off as well. And just before we get any farther along here, I've realized that I have gone this entire summer without any jokes.
Oh my gosh.
So completely unrelated to the subject. These are just jokes. You know, there've been so much stuff in the news lately with indictments and arraignments and stuff like that. I thought, you know, if prisoners could take their own mugshots, you know what they would be called? Selfies. Oh my gosh. Do you know why we can't eat Wookiee meat?
No.
Come on. Because it's chewy.
Is that it?
That's it. Wow. Okay. I'll work on the quality. I got to get back to
they were good, but I was waiting for more. I thought you
That's
had
all
like
I
a
get.
list.
No, I just got a couple.
Well, I love them.
You love me. Thank you.
I love you as well.
Again, welcome. Please connect with us at freedhearts.org. Everything we do, everything we have is right there. So today we're going to talk about the law, about rules. And we're going to do something really fun because we're going to end this episode by giving, what was that?
Fun.
Fun. Rules are fun.
No, the part you said we're going to do something really fun.
We are going to do something really fun near the end. We're going to give you 10 religious rules that every person should disobey. Yep.
Let's say it this way. 10 rules every person should break.
There you go. Oh, that's good. You like break
like
better?
that. Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Okay. Break, disobey, completely ignore.
Tell them to stuff it.
Okay. We are in clearly a mood today.
I'm in a rule breaking mood.
Well, you know, the trouble with laws and rules is that they focus on the negatives, you know, kind of doing away with the negative. Don't kill, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. But love is the opposite in that it deals with positives, you know?
That's a good point.
And you can't legislate for love or define degrees of love. You can't pass a law that forces people to love, or you can't even pass a law that defines love. Boy, they're sure trying to do that now, aren't they? But and you can't define degrees of generosity and kindness. And we have talked in the past about how one reason that the non-affirming rules-based box church is so much against the true movement of the Spirit is because they can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't control or define love, and so they tend to go on what they can control and what they can use in an us versus them narrative, and that's rules. Rules sometimes for the sake of rules. And as I said in the little intro tease there, written by men to help keep their power and their control. Now, Jesus...
Don't we all love a good man in power? No, never mind. We don't. Go ahead.
No, we don't. Jesus was a great example of a rule breaker.
Go, Jesus.
Touching lepers, hanging with sinners, his interactions with women, his opinions on the Sabbath, etc.
How do you treat women? Women with respect.
Yes.
Who knew you could do that?
And again, to clear so many things where this woman is not allowed to be in this room with us, Jesus. You need to send her away.
Yeah, he broke their taboos around women completely, time and again.
He did offer correction there, but not to the woman, to the man of
to the
house,
religious leader.
So to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, but why? Why was Jesus so? There are a lot of reasons for this, but why was Jesus so into breaking, redefining, throwing the rules, redefining them in a way that they showed that they had no common sense behind them, that the heart of a rule was being missed by the way that it was being implemented. And as we talked recently in our Truth That Sets You Free episode, he did that to show us, to model the oneness that we have with God and what all of that really means and what it doesn't mean. And it's
and the
funny.
oneness we have with each other.
Yes, absolutely.
If we could get over it, if we could see it, get over this division.
Yeah, it's interesting as I just said that in that, the non-affirming rules-based box Christian church is, it's always like, Jesus is the truth. Jesus will set you free. Jesus will set you free. But they don't really believe that because they don't. Jesus, brothers, sisters, listen to me here. I'm going to preach for a second. Jesus has had nothing to do with the Christian church almost since its inception. Not the truth of what he said. He's a mascot. He's the clickbait. But what he said, how he lived, his message, again, as we just shared recently in The Truth That Sets You Free, he was not about the rules. He was not about doing your best. He was not about that stuff. And so this quote, truth that sets you free by the church just does just the opposite. It puts you into bondage.
Yeah.
So, and Jesus did some of this and I'm over talking here, but I'm going to kind of go on here and give you a chance to kind of comment in as we get to some lists here coming up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right, sweetheart?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just thinking about what you were saying.
He did some of these. He intentionally pointed out and broke some of these rules to show us that, for one thing, the Old Testament law was not even possible for people to keep. Couldn't keep it. So the goal is not to keep it.
It's something bigger.
Yeah. In fact, I recall you talking about your time in seminary. Did you have some stuff from as far as Old Testament law and how it was, did you have anything on that?
Well, you said impossible to keep, and this was pre-seminary, but we were starting to get a different kind of teaching than the evangelical church we'd been in. But the law was there for the people to navigate this people that had been oppressed over the years and been captive by occupiers and diaspora, those who had dispersed them as a people. And these laws were there to keep them as a people.
Together.
Yes.
With some sort of sense
with some identity.
Yeah,
yes.
That's interesting. And we have said this before, but if you define this as reading the scripture through the eyes of the oppressed.
Yes. Yes, if you're not reading it that way, you're reading it wrong. Yeah, you're going to get the wrong message from it.
So to understand that this group of people had been oppressed and marginalized and used for their entire existence, and this law was a way to say we can come together. Here's some structure.
Yes,
when everything around us is unstable.
Yes, to cohere as a people. That's exactly right.
It was not and never meant to give you oneness with God. You know what I mean? In that sense, you know what I mean?
Like to make you good enough for God.
Or to build that relationship with God. And that's one of the main things that Jesus pointed out was that, hey, I am the way, and look how I'm the choices I'm making. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, in the Pharisees, the religious leaders, I like to call them, because that's more relatable to who we are today. They're very analogous to who we are today.
And they don't
the leaders
use that word anymore, do they? Pharisee.
Oh, well.
But they're sure out there.
Yeah, right. You don't want to call them a Pharisee today because that's such an insult to them, but they're being very Pharisaical. these religious leaders today, many of them, that the idea is not to keep the law in a legalistic way, like so that you're good enough. The idea is this is how we work better together as a people. We can't kill each other. We can't move forward that way. We can't lust after each other and steal from each other. That just won't work. But it's not a morality like this will make you fit for God.
Yes, and Jesus pointed out too that the one example of this being impossible is when he said, if you just have bad thoughts in your mind about someone else, you've already committed murder against them.
Exactly.
So you say,
well, I've kept the law. I've kept the law. I've never lusted after my neighbor's wife. Oh, you have in your heart.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that counted. Yes, that's because that's the point of it.
Right.
The point is to hold this ideal of what it means to really live and work and play together well. And he told the religious leaders of his day everything. These were the most learned, they went to Dallas Theological Seminary, like they know everything. and he said, after all these years, you don't even understand any of this. You don't understand what it means to love God. You don't understand that God loves you. You've got it all upside down. Your interpretation over all these years has come up with a big goose egg.
Yeah.
You've lost the plot.
And it absolutely goes against community and relationships, because in about a month, I think it's near the end of September, you're going to do a podcast about narcissism.
Yes.
And you've been working on that for a while. And it's interesting because living by a set of rules, a consequence of that is you naturally become narcissistic, because it's all about, oh my gosh, am I keeping the rules so I end up okay. And it inhibits my relationship with someone because, oh my gosh, are you somehow preventing me from, are you getting in the way? Are you making me stumble?
Right.
Whatever. So it does not foster good relationships, and it makes you completely focused on yourself.
Yes. So like today, there's the Good Samaritan law, which means that if you stop and help somebody who's hurt and something happens where they accidentally get worse, you can't be sued for that if you were there helping them, because in our litigious, whatever, happy society, it would be, people were afraid to stop and help somebody because if they help them and something goes wrong, then they're blamed and sued and they lose their own home because they were helping you. And so there was a law saying you can't sue somebody that's helping you. And it's very similar to that. I want to stop and help this man that's been beaten by the side of the road, but I'm going to sully my hands and have to go through ritual cleansing again, which is what the first two that passed by said with the Good Samaritan. And, it's going to mess me up in the rules, but the rules were only always there to facilitate the relationship.
Yeah.
For us to live together well and love each other.
And there are, to bring it really close to home, there are LGBTQ plus people beaten and dying in the streets, and religious folks are stepping over the bodies. I'm just being honest, and they're stepping over the bodies in order to somehow keep the rules or
to be clean themselves.
Yeah, to be clean themselves.
But they're missing the whole point of it.
Right.
The whole point.
And that leads to another point that Jesus was making here, in that religious rules and traditions only place burdens upon people.
Yes.
It's a weight, and it's a heavy weight.
Right.
That, oh my gosh, these things I have to do and keep, or else. And we're going to get to the or else's, and we've gotten to those a little bit. But and Jesus came to abolish the idea that the goal in all this is to please God.
Yes.
And as I hope you know by now, there's nothing, God has your photograph on their fridge, and there's nothing you can do to please God any more than you already have, or to displease God.
And there's nothing you can do to make displease God. That's right.
Right. And then finally, Jesus was saying that when religious rules get in the way of mercy, compassion, and justice, they should be overridden always. He didn't break the rules to be rebellious. He broke the rules, well, maybe a little bit inside, but he broke the rules to show that people matter more than rules. People
Right.
matter. It's like people over profit.
Right.
You know, people matter. That's what it's all about. If somehow I'm keeping the rules, so I have to leave you suffering,
Right.
something's bass
I have
backwards
to reject
there.
my gay child because I
have to
I
keep
don't
it.
want to be out on the outs with God.
Right.
I'm sorry, you got that upside down.
Yeah. And that's actually a good thing on your radar if you're going along in life. And it's a question to ask is, do we have, I mean, when we find ourselves hesitating or kind of taking a step back in loving and accepting others or loving and accepting ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
is that some old remnant of a religious rule that's getting in the way of that? You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's kind of a good thing to maybe look at if we find ourselves hesitating. Why are we doing that? And it may be some old religious rule that's still floating around in there,
Yes.
wreaking havoc. So
Yes.
again, so we are taking a break after this episode, back with you in September. So we want to give you something fun to do for the rest of your summer for August. Break some rules.
Break some rules, baby.
We want you to spend the next month breaking these rules. So
Yes.
we're going to give you, I'm going to just give you the rule that we're asking you to break or that you need to break. We must all break and disobey. And Susan, you can make whatever comments you
All
want.
right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So rule number 1, these are religious rules that you must break. Okay?
Yep.
Rule number 1, don't hang out with people who have different beliefs and views.
Yeah. Break that rule.
I
I
mean,
mean, how are you gonna grow and learn in this society full of a variety of all kinds of people and places and things that are happening in life? And it's like we've lost all our wonder. I don't even want to know anybody different. I got my church people. That's all I need. Yeah, so break that. That is deadening.
And it's interesting, but why would the church instill something like that? Because again, the answer is almost always so they can control the people
Yeah.
here. So it was even in the evangelical church, that box is sealed so tight that you're led to believe and you're taught directly that if you do hang out with someone like that, you're walking with the devil here. You're on the verge of destroying everything. It's just ridiculous. So
Yes.
break that rule this summer. Hang out with people who have different views and beliefs than you do. Okay.
Great.
So rule number 2, don't do any work on the Sabbath,
Yeah.
because the Sabbath is,
Holy, and you should keep it holy.
but Jesus said what? That the Sabbath is not made for man.
Oh.
No, wait.
I was wondering what you're going for. Yes. Okay, so let me back up for just a
Sure.
sec, because that's fantastic, and we say that all the time. The idea of this rule is that take a day for yourself. Take a day of rest where you're not consumed with Facebook and email and bringing in a buck, and just relax and focus on your relationship with God, with spirit, we might say. And so, you need to rest. And many of us who are so caught up in so much of our work, and even work we love, we overwork. And it's important to take breaks and rest and re-energize yourself,
Right.
refresh
That's
yourself.
the meaning behind
That's
that.
the meaning behind it. But they were drawing these lines, like they couldn't even light their lamp because that's considered work.
Well, someone's
or they couldn't spit because that might create a furrow, and that's work. I mean, you see how legalism just destroys the whole concept that that rule was even
Right.
put there for. It was meant to encourage us in our relationship with God, and instead it drew up boundaries
right.
between us and other people. But yes, Jesus said, and I love this, he said, the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. We weren't made so that the Sabbath would be kept.
Right.
The Sabbath was made to restore us to our relationship with God.
Right.
And it's like saying to prospective parents, oh, you've got that list of how you think children should behave. And so you're going to have children so that they can satisfy that list. Hold on. Maybe you should start with a puppy because a child is going to be
not a cat,
a casualty in this thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And what you want people in your church so that they can keep the rules? You've got that upside down.
Right.
Yeah,
So we do want you to celebrate the heart behind this, and that's take time for you, beloved.
Yeah.
Take time to put it aside. But you
put the work aside.
Right. Yes. You put the work aside, the burdens aside, and take time for you, for what's important in your life. That's rest.
I mean, I had to do that when I got cancer.
I know you did. It was a
and
life changer
heart issues. I had to restructure my thinking around rest.
But you can work on but don't do this. So you need to break the rule about this day, Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is. I can't work on that because God forbid that maybe it's really cold outside and your friend needs their firewood chopped up. Can't do that. Sorry about that. You're going to have to freeze.
Right.
It's, again, crazy example, but all those kind of things. So
right.
Break that rule. Rest, but come on,
Yeah.
Number three, the rule is that you need to mistrust your heart and what you most deeply feel. We say this all the time, beloved. You know where we're going with this. Your heart is trustworthy. It is deep.
It is good.
It is deep that it's even hard to understand. That's the point of that scripture. But it is good, and you can trust your heart. And Jesus confirmed all of that when it is the Spirit that will lead you in all truth.
Yes. How can the Spirit lead you in all truth if you don't trust your spirit, if you don't trust yourself to hear the Spirit?
So break that rule and trust your heart always, beloved. Always, always, always.
Because your heart is the true north. Your heart is what will guide you to the true north. Pay attention to it. It does not steer you wrong. You get a gut feeling about, I don't want to be with this person. Your heart knows that. Go ahead. Trust it.
Rule number 4 that you must disobey, that you must break this summer, is limit your experience of God's Spirit to the people and programs tied to a particular church. That's one of the things that came out of COVID was that people couldn't go to their church on Sunday morning. So they kind of had to rebuild and piece together a lot of their spiritual walk. And I actually think that was a very good thing. People, but again, the rule is there because the church wants you to come and get everything they say you need in one place, so they can control you, keep you in the pews, keep you writing checks. But the rule you need to break here is limiting that experience to the people of the programs tied to a particular church.
And the programs that really matter, that really are going to make a difference, aren't sanctioned by your church. Yeah. Very likely. They weren't for me when I started this work. They're like, what? No, you can't do that.
Rule number 5 you need to break. Never question what you have been taught are the core teachings about God, yourself, and the world. There are things out there, beloved, such as the existence of a place of eternal torment, about the needing to be born again by saying a particular thing.
He's talking about ideas, not realities.
Right. The teachings, things you have been taught.
Right.
That you, if you even question, we've said this before, but you are labeled a heretic and all that stuff. But so never question those things is what they want. They never question. Yeah.
How easy is it?
How afraid are they?
Right. How afraid are they? And how easy is it to lead people who are not allowed to question the leadership? That's right. That's a clear sign of a cult leader, honestly, if you can't question them.
Yeah. I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned.
Yeah. Sing it. That's right.
So question some things you've been taught. That's what you need to do this summer.
Curiosity. Be curious. Be curious. What is behind that?
Yeah.
What is the other side of that rule? Be curious and press into your wonder. It will change your foundation in a great way.
All right, 5 more. Rule number 6 that you need to. I know we just talked about core teachings, and we're We're going to step on some here, but that's okay, beloved. That's okay. Rule number 6
We're here to do it.
that you need to break is believe you need to be saved and rescued from yourself and cured from your own badness.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't.
You are not separated from God. You are not bad at your core. You do not need to be saved and rescued.
Yeah, Jesus never said you were. The Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible that Christians have hijacked to call the Old Testament, never said you were.
Right.
That was all read into it and added into it.
The quote, sinner's prayer was added into it. That was
Jesus never said you have to ask him into your heart to be your Savior.
Because when you, right. When you add something like that, you know what it does? It absolutely clearly defines it's us and it's them. And that's what the religious, not affirming church wants.
Yeah.
So you need to break that. You need to know that you are beloved and you don't need to be saved or rescued. And we hope you know that.
And the word saved is the same word that means healed and made whole. It's talking about in the now, to be made whole now. It does not mean being saved from hell and into heaven. That concept was read back into it hundreds of years later. It's not true.
Yep.
We can talk more about this, but you don't need to be saved from hell into heaven.
Yep.
You need to be saved to be made whole from all the things that have hurt you in this world.
Well, we just talked about that a couple of weeks ago in the truth that sets you free, is that's the truth. What's the truth that sets you free? That you're all good, that you're one with God. You're all good.
Yeah. You were created as a hologram of God, the image of God. That's what a hologram is. It's an image. And you are an image of God. So somebody ate some fruit from a tree and now that shattered that image? That's patently false.
And we'll get, and if you want to, we would love to hear your questions on this. If you have questions that are coming up in your mind about this, again, as we said, that's the radar, because that kind of question would prevent you from loving yourself and knowing how beloved you are. And it's probably based on an old religious rule, an old false teaching like that. So please write us, podcast@freedhearts.org. Ask your questions. We can elaborate them on further podcasts. We can get back to you, but we'd love to hear from you in all of this, beloved.
And I think you're saying that because you know that we're pulling some very core pieces from the bottom. And if you're listening, you might be saying, wait, what? And yes, that's right. That's an appropriate reaction to what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's so embedded into the Christian teaching, but it's false.
And if you think of it, the core of that, the heart behind believing that sets you free. You know what I mean? It sets you free. It allows you to love and be loved as you deserve, to believe that you are beloved, that you are all that. And that's never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Never a bad thing.
If you can see yourself as a microcosm hologram of God rather than as something broken and irredeemable, then it changes everything. It changes everything.
All right. 4 more. Rule number 7 that you need to break is to resign yourself to the idea that the big payoff happens after you die.
Nope.
It's not.
It will. You will return to spirit and wonderful things happen. You reconnect with people, all of that. We know that's true. I know that's true. But that's not what your focus is while you're here on earth.
Right. And Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is here and now.
The kingdom of heaven is here and now.
Right.
It's not in the sky, by and by after you die, whatever it is.
So be
great by and by in the sky after you die. When you die.
All I heard was key lime pie.
I'll take that in the here and now. I like that in the here and now.
All right. Rule number 8 here is that you need to break is make theology and doctrine the measure of true spirituality. We don't even need to say much on that, because like the Pharisees, religious leaders, they've got their they know their Bible. They've got their doctrine down, but
Yeah.
they are some of the least, the most unchristlike people out there.
Yes.
And a measure of spirituality is not
Yeah.
your theology and doctrine.
Yeah. That's right. And Jesus said as much to them, to
Well,
the religious leaders,
yeah.
like you guys are off your rocker.
Yeah. Well, here's your
Yeah.
theology and doctrine. And you can and measure on this. Love God, love others, love yourself.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, rule number 9 that you need to break: submit to your religious leaders without question. Along that same line, do not denounce your religious leaders.
Does anybody have a red flag going off saying cult right this moment?
Yeah. Well,
That's a cult right there.
Well, you way back when before we'd started FreedHearts, you had an interaction, and kind of talked about this with someone.
Oh my gosh.
And they just couldn't disagree with you, and they kind of called you in, 2 men, and
The pastor and the junior pastor.
yeah, and finally the junior pastor after the session
he was
turned to
saying,
you.
we want you not to talk about this in the church because for the cohesion of the group. Okay. And it was nothing even related to me, but they wanted me not to talk about it.
And it wasn't going well. So finally he said,
he didn't know my answer yet. And so they said that, and it took me 2.1 seconds to process before I even could answer. The junior pastor, as I call him, said, you've got to submit to me. I'm your pastor. I'm your authority. That's what he said. You've got to submit to me. I'm your authority. I thought, oh my gosh, I have clothes older than you. You have no idea who I am as a human being, as a mother, as a woman, as someone with vast experience, as someone who grew up in a home where I did really grow from. Oh, you know nothing about me, and I'm supposed to submit to you.
So beloved
kid.
So beloved, break this rule. Question your religious leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Question your religious leaders. That is okay to do.
And they may not like it to their face.
Well, that's a big red flag.
It's a big red flag, but it may get you. It may be very difficult and uncomfortable for you to question them to their face, but question them in your own heart.
Exactly.
And sort it out.
Yeah. Don't just submit in your heart because of what they said or who they are.
Right.
In your heart, again, trust your heart, trust your spirit.
And according to Jesus and the way he talked to the religious leaders of his day, religious leaders are the least trustworthy to tell you who God is and to tell you who you are. The least trustworthy.
Yep. One more rule. One more rule to break is...
You shouldn't have brought that story up if you didn't want a reaction.
One more rule to break, and that's try your best to please God.
Yeah.
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
But the problem there is I can't find the word, but the core behind that statement is that there's something you can do to please God. And if there's something you can do to please God, then there must be something you can do to displease God.
That is so well put.
And you don't need to please God because God is already really top pleased with you. Can't get any better.
Yeah. These grandbabies of ours, we have 2 now and 1 on the way.
Papa.
One of them says Papa. She's over a year now.
Yeah.
There is not a stinking thing in the world they could do to please us. We're already beside ourselves with joy over these grandbabies. What, are they going to sit up straighter? Are they going to crawl a month sooner? What ridiculous idea is it that they would need to do to please us? There's no pleasing us because we're already completely pleased, and we couldn't be unpleased. And if we're not, we're the ones with the problem. If God is not overflowing with joy with you from the get-go, then that is something wrong with God.
Right.
So if you want to go down that blasphemous rabbit trail, go ahead.
And but
I'm saying that God loves you as you are 100%. And stop trying to please God because you don't need to. And start living according to just your inner knowing and your true north and your heart that is good and knows what's best for you.
And that the freedom that comes from that truth is incredible. I mean, here's a little bit of an analogy that, I am married to you,
Mm-hmm.
Susan. And this, if I say to you, you know what? I know the rules.
Mm-hmm.
The rules are I have to be faithful to you.
Mm-hmm.
The rules are I have to be kind. So because I want to keep those rules, I'm going to be faithful and kind.
Oh my gosh, keep it.
It's like, okay. And on paper, I'm faithful and kind. Now, how different does it feel if I say, because I love you,
Yeah.
because I know how much I feel your love for me, I'm going to be faithful and kind to you because of my love for you.
Yeah. Completely
on paper,
different.
it looks the same thing, but the reality of it and the truth and how it feels to you and to me is completely different.
Yeah.
So do whatever you're going to do. Love others, love yourself, be kind, do something wonderful, but do it out of the abundance that comes from knowing your oneness with God, knowing how pleased God is and always will be with you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So have a great rest of the summer. Beloved, we'll be back with you in September. And you can use this time if you want to get caught up on episodes you missed, or maybe listen to your favorite ones again. Whatever you like, have a great month off. We will too. And we will be back with you the first Wednesday of September. We love you.
We love you.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
You've been listening to the Freed Hearts podcast. We have extensive resources and vibrant community for you at www.freedhearts.org. Just come say hello. And if you have questions or issues or comments about the podcast, things you'd like us to talk about, reach out to us at podcast@freedhearts.org. The music is provided by Hannah Cottrell, our daughter, the Grammy-nominated Saint Sinner. And you can find out more about her at HeySaintSinner.com. Please share this, subscribe, and follow on your favorite platform. And thanks for listening.